Holly Peterson stared at her computer screen, the words from the email blurring into a harsh reality. After 5 years of pouring her heart into Summit Edge Logistics, a curt message informed her that her desk needed to be cleared by day's end, with HR handling her exit. Just 3 days. That's what she'd taken to lay her father to rest. 3 days of approved bereavement leave. The email, cold and detached, added, "We need people who prioritize their work," as if her father's funeral was a casual event she'd picked over paperwork. She leaned back in her squeaky leather chair, the quiet of the Boise office wrapping around her. It was early, the sky outside barely kissed by dawn, and Holly had arrived eager to dive back into work after her short leave. At 34, she wasn't just the regional team lead of Summit Edge's top-performing division. She'd built a tight-knit team that felt like family. They shared birthday cakes, leaned on each other through tough times, and drove one another to shine. Now, her eyes drifted to the small cactus her team gave her last Christmas, the framed photo from their company retreat, and the stack of handwritten thank you notes from colleagues she'd mentored. 5 years of her life, soon to be packed into a single box. The termination notice signed by her boss, Dan Weaver, who'd greenlit her leave just last week, cited failure to maintain adequate presence during critical operational periods. Apparently, her father's passing didn't qualify as an excuse. Holly didn't cry or storm Dan's office. Instead, she snapped a photo of the email, forwarded it to her personal account, and began packing. By the time coworkers trickled in, her desk was half empty. Tanya from accounting noticed first. "Holly, what's going on?" she asked, eyeing the cardboard box. "I've been let go," Holly said plainly. "What?" "Why?" Tanya's voice rose. "Taking approved leave to bury my dad wasn't prioritizing work, I guess," Holly replied, wrapping her cactus in bubble wrap. Tanya's shock turned to anger. "That's messed up. Have you talked to Paula? The regional manager needs to hear this." "Nope," Holly said, taping a box shut. "I'm not fighting it, but I won't forget it either." As she packed, her team arrived, their faces shifting from confusion to fury. Jason, her cheerful direct report, looked gut-punched. "This is nonsense," he started, but Holly stopped him with a shake of her head. "It's done, Jason. Dan made his call." "But the Newbrook merger? Profits up 18% this quarter because of you," he protested. Holly gave a small, sad smile. "Guess that wasn't enough." By 9:30, all 7 of her core team members, Ethan, Veronica, Michael, Louise, Diane, Gabriella, and Kayla, stood by her desk, a silent wall of support. Ethan, usually stoic, looked ready to break something. Veronica was in tears. "You can't leave," she said. "The Wilson account renewal's next week. The Hernandez contract's in play. Nobody knows the system like you." Holly sealed her box. "Dan should have thought of that before he fired me for attending my father's funeral." The words landed heavily. Her father's death was still raw, the funeral barely a week past, and now this betrayal from a company she'd given everything to. A sharp voice cut through. "I need everyone back at their desks." Dan Weaver stood there, arms crossed, his narrow face pinched. No one budged. "Now," he snapped, louder. Slowly, her team dispersed, each shooting her a look of solidarity. Dan approached, lowering his voice. "This could have been quieter if you'd waited until tonight to pack." Holly met his eyes. "Like the courtesy you showed firing me by email after approving my leave?" His jaw clenched. "Business moves fast. Summit Edge needs people who get that. Your father's passing was unfortunate, but—" "Don't!" Holly cut in, her voice low and sharp. "Don't finish that." Dan faltered, then adjusted his tie. "HR's waiting. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." She grabbed her box. "Don't worry, I won't cause a scene, but you might want to remember this moment, Dan. It could matter later." In HR, Barbara Kent's office was sterile. White walls, sparse decor, and a rehearsed look of sympathy. Barbara, new to the company, seemed uneasy. "I'm sorry about this, Holly," she said, pushing papers across the desk. And I'm very sorry about your father. Thanks, Holly replied, skimming the documents. 2 weeks severance, a non-disparagement clause, and a 6-month non-compete barring her from rival firms. Any reason I should know about for this? Barbara hesitated. It feels sudden. Anything you can share? Holly showed her the email. 3 days of approved leave, and I'm out for not prioritizing work. Barbara's composure cracked. This is it? No performance plan? No warnings? Just an email? She made a note. I need to check with legal. Can you wait? While Barbara stepped out, Holly gazed at the Boise River through the window. Her dad loved fishing there, teaching her patience in waders as the current swirled. The river moves, Holly girl, he'd say, but the rocks stay steady. Be like the rocks. Barbara returned, her tight smile saying it all. Nothing would change. Unfortunately, Idaho's an at-will state, she began. I get it, Holly said, signing the papers. Summit Edge can do what it wants, so can I. Barbara leaned in, voice low. Off the record, this isn't right. If you wanted to pursue action... I don't, Holly said firmly, but thanks. Walking through the office, she felt eyes on her. Her team watched, faces heavy. She gave them a small smile, her final act as their leader. Outside, the September air was warm. She loaded her box into her car, sat in the driver's seat, and let the weight of it all settle. Her phone buzzed with texts from her team, Jason, Veronica, Ethan, and more. Outraged, supportive, loyal. These weren't just coworkers. They were her work family. A plan sparked. She wouldn't sue, though she could. She'd be patient like her dad taught her. Steady as a rock. Her phone rang. Hank Fleming, CEO of Vertex Transport Systems, Summit Edge's biggest rival. They'd met at a conference, and he'd been trying to poach her for months. It was time to call him back. Vertex's office was open and bright, with big windows framing Boise's skyline. Hank, a burly guy with a silver beard, greeted her warmly. I've been hoping you'd reach out, he said, leading her to a conference room. Didn't expect it'd be like this, though. Word spread fast. Holly shared the email. That's not just poor leadership, Hank said, frowning. It's heartless. Bereavement leave is there for a reason. Summit Edge always put profits over people, Holly said. I just didn't think I'd be the one burned. Hank leaned in. I'll cut to it, Holly. Vertex is growing our Northwest ops. We need you. Division director. Yours if you want it. Division director. A big leap from her Summit Edge role with more responsibility and better pay. My non-compete? She asked. Hank grinned. Our lawyers say it's too broad, likely unenforceable. We'd cover any legal fight if Summit Edge tries. I'll think it over, she said. Take the weekend, Hank replied. We'll talk Monday. That night, Holly met Veronica and Jason at Riverfront Brewing, a cozy pub off the beaten path. They slid into the booth, faces a mix of worry and anger. You holding up? Veronica asked. I'm okay, Holly said. It's been a rough couple weeks, but I'll bounce back. Jason scoffed. Dan's an idiot. The office is a mess. Nobody knows where the Henderson files are, and your system access hasn't been reassigned. That's Dan's problem, Holly said, sipping water. It's bigger, Veronica said. Everyone's talking. People are pissed about how they treated you. You were respected, Holly. Jason nodded. Dan's move has people scared. If they do this to you, their best team lead, what's stopping them from screwing over anyone? Veronica added, Paula's asking questions. She looks stressed. Good, Holly said quietly. As they talked, texts from other team members rolled in. Tales of chaos, frustration, and anger at management. Summit Edge was already feeling her absence. What's next for you? Jason asked. Holly paused. Vertex offered me a job. Their eyes widened. Your non-compete? Veronica asked. Vertex thinks it's shaky, especially since they fired me without cause. Holly said. Still a risk, though. Jason's phone pinged. Dan's calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. Saturday. Never done that before. The Wilson account's due Monday, Veronica explained. Nobody can find your analysis files. Holly smirked. Her files were on the server, but her unique system wasn't intuitive. She hadn't planned for this, but she felt a twinge of satisfaction. I should go, she said, grabbing her purse. Early meeting tomorrow. Jason caught her eye. Holly, if you went to Vertex, would they be hiring? She studied them. Hypothetically, yeah. They're expanding fast. Their shared glance said it all. Saturday, Holly met Vincent Torres, an employment lawyer, in his sleek office. She showed him the email and notice. This screams wrongful termination, Vincent said. Firing someone for approved bereavement leave could breach contract in good faith. I'm not suing, Holly clarified. I just need to know about my non-compete. He scanned it. 6 months, 300-mile radius? That's basically banning you from the industry or forcing you to move. In Idaho, it's iffy, especially since they fired you poorly. Is it enforceable? She asked. Doubtful, he said. Courts don't like non-competes when the employer screws up. Vertex offered you a job? Division director. Better pay, she said. Go for it, Vincent advised. Summit Edge would struggle to prove harm, especially after this. Over the weekend, her team texted about the tense Saturday meeting. Dan was piling on work with no extra pay. The Wilson files were found, but no one grasped Holly's analysis. By Sunday, she'd decided. Monday, she called Hank. I'm in, but I have one condition. Name it, Hank said. If my Summit Edge team applies to Vertex, give them a fair shot. Done, Hank said. If they're half as good as you, we'd be thrilled. That afternoon, Holly signed as Vertex's Division Director of Northwest Operations. 40% higher salary, better benefits, and a signing bonus. Leaving Vertex, she checked her phone. 7 messages, 1 from each core team member, all wanting private coffee chats. Tuesday, Holly sat in a quiet downtown coffee shop. Jason arrived first, then Veronica, followed by Ethan, Louise, Diane, Gabriella, and Kayla, filling 2 tables. Summit Edge is falling apart, Ethan said. Dan's hovering, Paula's on his case, and clients are asking questions. The Wilson account's threatening to bail, Veronica added. They want you. Holly sipped her coffee as they shared tales of disorder. Heard you joined Vertex, Jason said, the group quieting. News spreads, Holly noted. We want in, Veronica said. The others nodded. You've got solid jobs at Summit Edge, Holly said. You sure? Louise snorted. Solid? They fired you for your dad's funeral. Nobody's safe. Vertex is hiring, Holly said. I can't promise anything, but apply formally. We did, Gabriella said, showing confirmation emails. All 7 yesterday. Holly blinked. Before talking to me? We trust you, Kayla said. Where you go, we go. Holly's heart swelled. I'll make some calls. The next Monday, Paula McCormack, Summit Edge's regional manager, called at 7:30 a.m. Holly, we need to talk, she said, voice strained. Morning, Paula. What's up? Holly replied coolly. 7 resignation letters from your team, effective immediately. Care to explain? I don't work there anymore, Holly said. Maybe ask Dan why your best team's bailing. This is about your firing, isn't it? Paula sounded tired. I reviewed it. Dan didn't loop me in. I wouldn't have okayed it. That's between you and Dan, Holly said. But why wasn't the regional manager in on firing a team lead? Paula sighed. Dan called it an urgent performance issue. I was at a Seattle conference. I trusted him. My mistake. Holly let the silence stretch. Holly, Paula went on, I'll offer your job back. 10% raise, formal apology. The Wilson account's at risk. Thanks, but I'm set elsewhere, Holly said. We'll match Vertex's pay plus 15%, Paula pressed. It's not about money, Holly said. What would it take? Paula's voice cracked. 7 key people leaving at once is crippling. Time travel. Holly cut in. Back to when my dad died, and Summit Edge showed basic decency instead of punishing me for grieving. Silence. I need to go, Paula. New job starts today. Your non-compete? Paula tried. Talk to my lawyers, Holly said. They might want to review my termination first. At Vertex, Hank greeted her in the lobby. We're reviewing all 7 of your team. Impressive resumes. Interviews start Wednesday. Thanks for the fair shot, Holly said. Fair shot? They're stars. Summit Edge's loss, our gain. 2 days later, Barbara from Summit Edge's HR called. Off the record, Dan's on leave pending review, she whispered. Paula's probing management practices, especially bereavement policies. Glad to hear it, Holly said. The board's involved, Barbara added. Losing a whole team to Vertex raised red flags. They're auditing last year's terminations. By Friday, all 7 team members had Vertex offers and accepted. They celebrated over dinner, toasting new starts. And to Holly, Jason said, who showed us what real leadership is. The next week, Summit Edge sent a letter admitting Holly's wrongful termination and offering a settlement. She accepted, not for the cash, but for their admission of fault. That day, the Wilson account signed with Vertex, following Holly's team. The river moved, but they stayed steady, just like her dad taught. 3 months later, Holly presented Vertex's quarterly results. 30% division growth, 4 major client wins, 3 from Summit Edge, and 22% cost savings. Outstanding, Holly, Hank said. You and your team crushed it. She smiled. My team's the real MVP. Back in her office, her 7 teammates surprised her with a cake. 3 months since we all jumped ship, Jason said. Our Independence Day. Holly laughed. You're all nuts. Seriously, Holly, Veronica said. Everyone's thriving here. They were, each growing, valued, and empowered. A news alert pinged. Summit Edge Logistics announces restructuring amid client exodus. Ethan mentioned losing the Hernandez contract, 20% of Summit Edge's regional revenue. Dan was gone, Paula scrambling. Holly felt no joy, just justice. Summit Edge wasn't failing because she left. It was failing because it treated people like tools. She raised her glass. To companies learning to value their people. And to Holly, Gabriella added, who showed us we're worth more. 6 months in, Paula, now at a consulting firm, invited Holly to lunch by the Boise River. She looked lighter. I owe you an apology, Paula said. I set the stage for what happened. You didn't fire me, Holly said. No, but I built the culture that allowed it, Paula admitted. After you left, it unraveled. The board's audit trashed leadership. Summit Edge is being bought by Meridian Shipping for pennies, mostly for assets. Holly wasn't shocked. Dan? Unemployed. His rep's toast. Your story's out there. Holly hadn't broadcast it, but hadn't hidden it either. I'm helping firms avoid our mistakes now, Paula said. Was it worth it walking away quietly? Holly thought of her thriving team, loyal clients, and her dad's lesson. Yeah, she said. The results prove it. A year after that email, Vertex named Holly Executive Vice President of Northwest Operations. Her division was the company's star, with top employee satisfaction. Her 7 teammates had all been promoted. Jason led a division, Veronica reshaped client relations, and the others shone. On her termination's anniversary, Barbara mailed back her old cactus with a note. Rescued this from your desk. Summit Edge closes next week. Holly set the cactus by her window, thriving like her. That evening, she stood by the Boise River where she and her dad fished. The water flowed around steady rocks. You were right, Dad, she whispered. Stay steady. Let the current work. Her revenge wasn't destroying Summit Edge. It was building better. A workplace where grief wasn't a fault, where people were more than metrics, where leadership lifted others up. Her dad would have been proud. Looking ahead, Holly felt grateful, even for the pain. The worst moments can lead to the best if you stay steady as the river rushes by.